2, 3. Okay, it looks like my microphone is working. Welcome to you good folks for popping in for the broadcast. I had to kick things off with my battle music to get me in rare form for this broadcast. I had not planned on doing a broadcast, but these lying human beings that run around on Twitter telling lies every which way, I decided to stop in my tracks and do a broadcast. I apologize for the broadcast that I posted for yesterday. I had hoped to get it done, but I had to do some more yard cutting grass again yesterday, and I had to cut the backyard, and I cut the front yard on Friday. So by the time I got done cutting that yard, I was just dog tired, and I had to go to sleep and recover. So, with the grace of the good Lord, Who Did You Boycott woke up today feeling more refreshed. I don't feel in pain as much as I did on Friday, thank goodness. So I'm happy about that. And so I decided to make sure that I get this broadcast in today before I get to my other tasks of working on my business stuff. So I went and I want to start out with line Mark King Carter. I met Mark King Carter in 2022 when I downloaded Clubhouse on the 5th of January 2022. Shortly after that, within about a month or two, I encountered Mark King Carter. In the Freeman space, what they were calling on Clubhouse was the Freeman space. And so I popped into the Freeman space on Clubhouse quite a bit, and they kicked me out. They would kick me out of the space over and over. And I would go open my space and talk about them. And then I would come back. I would let a day or two go by, and then I would come back again, and they would kick me out. And then I wait another day or two and come back again, and they'll kick me out. Finally, they stopped kicking me out. I don't know why. I don't know to this day why they stopped kicking me out. But what I wanted to point out about that, going back over those facts, is that Mark King Carter was the main kingpin over there on Clubhouse when I came off the microphone and talked about getting organized and where was the database. Where was the simple database of your names being organized? You're talking about all of this that you're going to get done, and nobody can produce a database of names of persons who are trying to get on the same page. So every time Who Did You Boycott came off the microphone and brought that up, Mark King Carter was the loudest one calling me crazy. Well, who's crazy now? Now they running around like a chicken with their neck cut off talking about getting organized. But when I brought it up, they shot it down. They talked over me. They called me crazy. So 3 years later, here we are talking about the very thing that I brought up on Clubhouse shortly after I joined. Because it didn't take a ton of bricks to fall over my head that where was the database? Where was the email list? Where was the Discord? Where was the Facebook group? Where was the number count? Nobody had a number count. Everybody was just talking. But nobody could show a number count. Was it 500 persons on the same page? Was it 1,000 persons who had their name in a database or email list? Where was the number count? Nobody had a number count, but everybody was busy talking. They were talking about going red. We're going to go red. Chicago is going to turn red. But nobody was talking about a number count. Now, every time I look around, somebody's got a room open talking about getting organized. Now folks don't start putting communities on a Twitter profile because I called it out. They didn't want to have a community on their profile. Nobody had one when I clicked on their profile, and I clicked on it more than 3 or 4 times because I sent them my direct link about my boycott. So I had to click on their profile and look at it. So I ain't got to make it up because I certainly have the DM messages still in my DMs. I still have every one of the DM messages that I sent each one of them with the direct link to the boycott that I had launched. So I looked at their profile. When I counted it, some of them I had sent it to them more than 3 or 4 times. More than 3 or 4 times, so they can lie if they want to lie, but I have the profile names of each one of them in my DMs. So getting back to Mark King Carter, I downloaded Clubhouse on the 5th of January. By the 5th of February, I had already built a website with all 50 groups, for 51 for each of the states. All they had to do was click on that link and join the group for their state. And kept it moving. All they had to do was take 5 or 10 minutes to click on the link and add their name to the number count that I was trying to get organized, but they never clicked on it. No matter how many times I brought it up in spaces that I went in, I had it on my profile. I had it pinned to my profile on Clubhouse. So normally, most of us click on each other's profile when we're talking in spaces, so they couldn't have missed it. They could not have missed it because it was the first thing that you saw when you clicked on my profile on Clubhouse. So, when I built that website on WordPress, like I said, I put up 50 network groups for folks to network with each other and gather their number count. They ignored me. They ignored Who Did You Boycott and called me crazy. So I said, well, let me come up with a brainstorm and try to give some motivation or incentive for folks to click the link. So I was going to, each person was going to earn a 50% commission on a $20 membership for the year. All the persons had to do was put $20 into the membership, and they were going to earn a 50% commission by sharing that link. Those that could not pay $20 at one time, they had the option to come in as a silver member and earn 25% commission and pay every 6 months. So I came up with that. I said, well, the other 50% is going to go back to the members. 35% is going to go into a community fund that all the members will vote on how the money would get dispersed. All of that was explained transparently to everyone before they signed up. It was spelled out in the description for each of the membership. So they knew where the money was going. It was not going into Who Did You Boycott pocket. And 15% was going to administrative costs. Because Who Did You Boycott had already forked out over $500 to build a website. But folks didn't want to hear that. They just wanted to cape for the Republicans. They just wanted to turn Chicago red. They just wanted to be freemen. They didn't want to hear anything about getting organized. They didn't even bother to talk about how to educate their community on how to be a voting bloc. No, just go vote. Just simply go vote. No education was talked about when they would have Clubhouse rooms that would stay open for more than 72 hours straight. But nobody opened a room to talk about how to educate the community about voting as a voting bloc. I still to this day don't hear folks talking about how to help the community to understand how to be a voting bloc. Every now and then I hear folks talking about it now since I've been preaching about it for so long, but it never was in their mouth until I started talking about it. But once again, who did you boycott is crazy. Who did you boycott is crazy, but I am sitting back and doing my observation and evaluation, and my observation and my evaluation, I'm looking at who looks crazy now. Because a lot of folks look crazy now. 3 years later, a lot of folks are in line looking very, very crazy now because they didn't give a darn about what I said out of my mouth. The word organizing and knowing your number count didn't matter to them. Well, I guess it matters now because a lot of folks are running around like a chicken with their neck cut off. All of a sudden, folks are talking serious. Before I started doing my own Twitter spaces in August of 2023, all of these Twitter spaces were talking about nonsense. Just nonsense after day, nonsense. But once Who Did You Boycott started doing her broadcast, talking about serious stuff, all of a sudden the atmosphere on Twitter land started to change. Folks all of a sudden started opening Twitter spaces and talking serious. It just came out of nowhere. It just completely came out of nowhere. I guess folks just started watching Who Did You Boycott broadcast, and they decided to get serious all of a sudden. Because we are not going to rewrite and reinvent ourselves. No, we're not going to wake up and try to reinvent ourselves. We are not going to rewrite the lies that were told. For 2 years, they had a whole 2 years to organize a boycott. A whole 2 years to organize a boycott. So now, instead of the narrative that Mark King Carter was preaching on Clubhouse, and then when he came to Twitterland about 6 months before the election and was preaching it again, all of a sudden now the narrative is, you have got to get organized. You have got to set up an LLC. You have got to get organized. You have got to set up an LLC. All of a sudden, that's the narrative now. Well, the narrative was that we have got to go red. We are going to take over the Republican Party. That was the narrative until they started listening to my broadcast, and I broke it down. That you will not be taking over the Republican Party. Because unless you plan on doing a Houdini, unless you have the ability to do a Houdini, no one who has melanin skin, brown or dark brown skin, will not be ever taking over the Republican or the Democratic Party, because the persons who walk around on 2 legs who have brown and dark brown skin don't have a population in 25 states out of 50. 25 states out of 50, there's a non-existent population of brown and dark brown skinned persons. So how do you plan to take over a Republican Party or a Democratic Party when you don't even have a population in 25 states? It's so small, it's less than 2%. So how in God's name are you planning on taking over a Republican Party or a Democratic Party anytime soon, unless you plan on inventing a population out of the clear blue air? Unless you have a baby machine and you're going to pump out babies in the next 5 to 10 years and produce a population by pumping out babies, you will not be taking over the Republican or the Democratic Party anytime soon, because you don't have a population in those 25 states. And the 25 that we do have a population in, there's only about 8 to 10 that we have a large population that's over 15%. That's how pitiful it is. That's how pitiful it is, but folks don't talk about that. They don't bother to talk about that when they in these Twitter spaces 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day, day after day, day after day, they open Twitter spaces, and they don't bother to talk about how to learn how to vote as a voting bloc. No one has a clue as to the number count. They don't have a clue what is the number count of our overall population. No one, if somebody put a gun to someone's head, they could not even put together a bare estimate of what is the voting population of the brown and dark brown skin. So folks just throwing numbers out there. They just guessing. They just guessing. But all of these other ethnicities, they put a lot of work in knowing their number count. They put a lot of work into knowing their number count. That's why the NAACP and the ERA can get invites, because they can show a number count. They can get invited to speak on MSNBC. They can get invited to speak on CNN and all these other platforms, because they have a membership base, and they have an idea of what their number count is. They have the ability to push a button and send out an email to all of their members at one time. Where is that email list and pushing that button for all of these folks who run around here claiming to be grassroots activists who cannot push a button to activate their members or to inform their members at a moment's notice, but they profess to be activists. But they will run around here with it like a chicken with their neck cut off, claiming to be grassroots. They are doing the work of the community. They are connected with the community. They are pulling up in the community. They got boots on the ground. They are pulling up in the community. They got boots on the ground, and they are grassroots activists. But no one has a darn clue of what that number count is. Not one soul has any clue to what that number count is. You got folks over here, you got folks over there. Nobody is trying to combine all the different number counts out there. But folks know about their LLC. They can preach about LLC, set up your LLC, but folks ain't talking about getting that number count. They can tell you to go shop black. Shop and buy black. Shop and buy black. But they cannot show you a number count. Can they? But they would talk to you in these Twitter spaces, and you folks would sit there and swallow all the lies. That's the pitiful part too. You folks sit in these Twitter spaces and listen to these brain-dead human beings as they feed you lie after lie. They feed you one lie after another lie, and you come back the next day and the next day and listen to some more. That's downright pitiful. I am just completely confused to be 63 years old and witnessing the bizarre things that I have witnessed in the past 3 years is enough to make me pass out. That folks can't be that dumb and slow. It's just not humanly possible. It's just not humanly possible to be that dumb and slow to keep coming back day after day and listen to the more lies and listen to more lies and come back a day after that and another day and listen to some more lies. Well, Mark King Carter and Sexy Raw, who has changed her name to Sway Me, and those folks who go into that space with DJ Big A and Denmark and UNK and Organizer, most of them were over there on Clubhouse. I remember some of their names, but some of their names have left me. But they all have conjugated over here on Twitterland now. But I was around them for more than 5 or 6 months. More than 5 or 6 months, I interacted with them on Clubhouse, and they were talking the same old narrative. They were talking the same old narrative, Freeman, and caping for the Republicans, and how they wanted to destroy the Democrats. Well, now they're trying to twist what Donald Trump is doing into a positive. They literally are getting up day after day and trying to twist the policies that and executive orders that Donald Trump has signed. They are trying to shape it into a positive. Well, you cannot be that dumb and slow. If I am the president and I do 10 things that negatively impact you, and I do 5 things that may positive impact you if you qualify, then it don't take rocket science to figure out that you are suffering. You are in the negative. So you brain dead Mark King Carter and Denmark and Sway Me and Organizer and all you folks who still trying to shape a positive narrative of what Donald Trump is doing. What Donald Trump is making very clear, so that none of us be confused, that Donald Trump and America wants Negro slavery and Negro history to disappear. Let's not be confused about everything else that you may feel that Donald Trump is doing. His main target is that 246 years of Negro slavery, of the blood that's on America's name called America. That is Donald Trump's #1 focus. Well, being president, you have a lot to be concerned about, but Donald Trump seemed to be making a lot of time for erasing Negro history on this landmass called America. What about that? What about that? With all the concerns that they claim they have about what's going on in America and around the world, Donald Trump is finding a lot of time to erase that Negro slavery for 246 years, plus the next 100 years up until 1965. So everything that was accomplished, all the sacrifice that was made up until 1965 is disappearing. And so you folks have started crying. Y'all have started crying like I've never seen before. And I've been on this earth for 63 years. And I never can remember a time when I have heard adults cry as hard and as loud as you folks are crying. Oh, we losing DEI, we losing this program, we losing that program, we losing jobs, we're losing DEI, we don't lost affirmative action, Donald Trump is attacking the Civil Rights Act, Donald Trump is erasing this, Donald Trump is erasing that. Well, yes, Donald Trump is quite busy, but you folks didn't care about the sacrifice that the Negroes made until it stopped at your doorstep. Now you care about it. Now you care about it. Now you want to cry about it, but you didn't care about those Negroes. You didn't care about preserving that history. You folks didn't care, so you cared so less you didn't even want to say the word Negro. That's how disdain you had for it. That's how ashamed you was of the Negroes who carved out 246 years plus another 100 years. So that's 350 years. That's 350 years for you ungrateful human being. So Mark King Carter and Organizer and and Sway Me and all the Freeman folks, they're not going to get not one thing. God is going to make sure they burn in hell before that happens. God is going to make sure each one of them burn in hell before they ever see one red penny, one red nickel, one red dime, one red quarter of reparations. they are never going to live to see that. They can keep on running around here misleading you folks until the cows come home. They can say it out of their mouth until they pass out, but they're not going to ever see one red penny. Because God does not reward ungratefulness. We all know that. I think even if you don't care about religious, or you don't go to church, if you don't have any spiritual connection to the Heavenly Father, you know that much. That's a no-brainer. God does not reward ungratefulness. That we know for sure. If we know anything while we're on this earth, that's one thing that we don't even have to wonder about. We don't have to guess about. We don't have to make an assumption about. God do not reward ungratefulness. So you folks and me have been witnessing ungratefulness. And so since we have been witnessing ungratefulness since 1965, let's get a pinpoint date. Since 1965, all of us who have brown and dark brown skin have been witnessing ungratefulness. And so now we are all being rewarded for that ungratefulness because Donald Trump told you out of his own mouth. He didn't leave you to guess. Donald Trump didn't want you to guess about it. He didn't want you to make an assumption about it. Donald Trump told you out of his own mouth. Let's all write it down. This is the quote that came out of Donald Trump's mouth. Donald Trump said, "I do not want anyone to grow up hating America." Let's repeat again. Donald Trump said, "I do not want anyone to grow up hating America." What could Donald Trump be talking about when he said that? Do y'all have any clue as to why Donald Trump felt the need to tell the whole world that he do not want anyone growing up to hate America? That's public schools. Anybody to be taught anything in public school or colleges that could possibly cause them to grow up hating America. Well, there's only three things that could possibly cause anyone to grow up hating America. And those three things are as follows. Number one, the genocide of the American Indian, Native American. That's number one. They almost wiped that whole bloodline off the face of the earth. I want you folks to hear me very clearly. They almost wiped the American Indian and Native American off the face of the earth. And they are in the 21st century trying to shape a narrative that America belongs to immigrants. How dare them? You see how foolish this is? That we are in the 21st century and folks are trying to paint a narrative that America belongs to them. They came from Germany, they came from Ireland, they came from Europe, they came from all around the world. But somehow or another, America belongs to them. But God got something waiting on them. God got something waiting on all of us. So now these human beings who have descendants are trying to paint a narrative that America belongs to these folks who like to call themselves white, but they are pink. They are really pink, and you don't have to believe me. You just take a piece of paper, just pull out a piece of paper that's white and put it next to their skin. And who is the liar? Are you the liar or they the liar? When you take that piece of paper out and that white piece of paper is next to their skin, then the question is answered. They are not white. Because God did not put any human being on this earth white or black. That's clear as day. That's clear as the day in front of us. That's clear as night. But you adults run around here calling each other white and black like it's a real thing. Y'all really are delusional. But no human being on this earth is white. No human being on this earth is black. So the number one reason why anyone would grow up to hate America is the genocide of the American Indian and the Native American. And the number two reason why anyone would grow up to hate America is Negro slavery. And it was recorded as Negro slavery and not just slavery. It wasn't recorded as descendant of slaves. It wasn't recorded as chattel slavery. It was not recorded as Black American slavery. It was not recorded as Black American chattel slavery. No, it was recorded. Let's all say it together. We all know how to pronounce the word record. It was recorded as Negro slavery. Go look it up on Google if they have not erased it, but I have already screenshotted it. So I have proof on my own personal disc, the little things that folks download stuff to. I have already screenshotted it when I did my search. And I looked it up, and it came back in the search result clearly stating that slavery in America on the landmass called America was recorded as Negro slavery. Not slavery. Not freeman slavery. Not Black American slavery. Not African American slavery. Not ADOS slavery. Not FBA slavery. No, it was recorded as a Negro slavery. And so that's the second reason why anyone would grow up to hate America, because of Negro slavery and genocide. And then the third reason why anyone would grow up to hate America is that America went around the world and caused destruction and genocide. So those are the only three reasons that I can come up with that would answer the question that Donald Trump said out of his own mouth. So what you are witnessing, that all of these ungrateful human beings have lost all of that sacrifice that was made for 246 years, it got washed down the drain. They just turned on the faucet and washed it down the drain. Just that quickly. They took a little ink pen and erased that whole 246 years because America is